Hello, Sébastien. Thank you for being here.
Hello, Amandine. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. I am very happy to welcome you because today I support women who are expanding their businesses, and there are artificial intelligence challenges today in everything that is happening. We are experiencing a real revolution, and I wanted to invite you so that you could bring insights and practical tools and tell us about them. And for me, it's an honor to invite you here. In fact, it was when I met you and prepared for the interview that I saw the full range of your experiences and accomplishments. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about your journey, if you'll allow me,
With great pleasure.
so that we know where you're coming from and can see your level of expertise. What I like is that you have a level of expertise in both new technologies and entrepreneurship, as well as other aspects that are much more human. So there's a sweet mix of everything. So to tell us a little bit about your story, you went to Centrale and at first you wanted to become a computer scientist. And that's what I discovered, and I thought it was great. I thought to myself, wow, you've come a long way from wanting to become a computer scientist, and today, with what you're offering, you've achieved it. You created a dance school, which is how you first became an entrepreneur.
That's right, yes.
Next,
Latin dance.
from Latin dance, I think it's great. And you're still doing it today. You dance a lot.
I no longer teach, of course.
You teach more classes, but you still dance salsa. I think it's part of your rhythm too. And what makes you, as we'll find out during the interview, have a pretty cool rhythm when you speak. There's something dance-like about your approach, but that's a good thing for an entrepreneur.
Thank you.
You became a seduction coach, then an expert, and quite a well-known one at that. You've been featured in lots of media outlets, and you've been a mentor, and I think that's what gave you a taste for entrepreneurship. And then you created the Free Entrepreneurs Movement,
In 2010, yes.
which was still a great success because you supported more than 300,000 entrepreneurs in 41 countries. So very good visibility. And I loved listening to your interviews on the subject. I particularly like that you wrote a book about the Free Entrepreneurs Movement, but you talk about raising questions about the entrepreneurial mindset and all the issues we have to face, especially all the failures and shortcomings we may encounter.
First, to decide whether you want to become an entrepreneur, and then to figure out how you're going to do it. Yes, the entrepreneurial profession.
And I think what you've put together is excellent. So, you created this book and now you're embarking on a new entrepreneurial adventure. Well, today, for the past few years now, we're going to talk about it because you're more in startup mode. You've launched an artificial intelligence program tool to help with video editing, to help creators, coaches, entrepreneurs, trainers, etc. And we'll be discussing all of these topics today. What would you like to add for our audience, for all the women and business women listening to us today?
I would say that I have a technical background. We're going to talk about things related to artificial intelligence, but I think the most interesting thing about this artificial intelligence revolution is the fact that it's a great equalizer when it comes to technical skills. So, if there are people watching our interview because they may have this apprehension, thinking, here's something else that seems even more technical and complex than doing business on the internet already was, artificial intelligence, in fact, the opposite will happen. And that's what I find interesting. And in relation to that, you talked about my career, which you presented very admirably. Thank you for that presentation. But I think one of the things that sets me apart from my colleagues in the field of artificial intelligence is that I not only have the technical background of an engineer, but also 20 years of experience in mentoring, coaching, and translating complicated concepts into simple terms. Today, artificial intelligence offers a wealth of opportunities that are often difficult to grasp because they are explained in such a complex way. There are people whose job it is to try to make things more complex because it allows them to sell them. And I hope that today we'll have the chance to say things in a simple way.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about artificial intelligence, but also a lot about the entrepreneurial mindset, because I think you have a great entrepreneurial mindset. And by the way, I wanted to congratulate you because raising $1 million, even though I know it's just the beginning for you, but still raising $1 million with 33 investors who believe in your project, working on it since then. You've been working on your project for 4 years.
That's right. Since 2021, yes.
Since 2021, OneTake AI has been your project, and we'll talk about it a little more later, but it's super inspiring. And what I see in you and what you've shared with me that has touched me is that for me, when you're an entrepreneur, you're a visionary. There are different types of entrepreneurship, but in any case, the entrepreneurship I promote is about looking at how the world is changing and serving that change. And you chose to invest in this project with OneTake AI even before the massive arrival of artificial intelligence.
That's right.
What made you believe in it so much? As you've seen, when you can see the future, what happened?
So, to explain the timeline, The OneTake AI project, the idea, came to me in April 2021. We'll start working on it at the end of 2021. That means that when we launched this product, which wasn't called OneTake AI at the time, it had a different name at the very beginning, we said we were using artificial intelligence to edit your videos. At that time, it was 1 year before the release of ChatGPT, which came out on November 30th, 2022. And so, at first, literally every time I gave a presentation, there was at least one person in the audience who asked me, but artificial intelligence, like in Terminator? Systematically, there was always someone asking the Terminator question. Because, well, it was still science fiction. That shift took place at the end of 2022 with the launch of ChatGPT on November 30th. And that's what made it much easier for us to present what we do, because people began to understand, okay, AI is no longer science fiction, it's something that will become increasingly present in our lives. So we were lucky to be like the surfer. We were already starting to paddle, the wave was still far behind. What happens is that in every industry, there are always these different phases where there's the phase where no one believes there will be a wave and everyone thinks you're crazy. Like there he is, all alone in the middle of the calm sea. So you can't be too early, like 10 years too early. In 2005, I programmed a chatbot that was on our website. I had a music website at the time, and I did that because we had a chat room on the site where members could talk. But often there were times when someone would come in and be all alone, in fact, the only person connected. So we needed to be able to start conversations. I made it so that when it detected that someone was connected, it would appear as a fake user who didn't exist, but was a user nonetheless. And so when it saw, hey, Amandine is connected, a message would appear in the chat saying, hi, Amandine, I see you're connected, to start the conversation. That was 20 years ago. The experiment lasted 3 weeks, and it was hilarious because I had programmed it so that some people liked it and some people didn't. So people really believed it was a person who had signed up. Some people loved it, others hated it. After a while, I revealed, well, no, it's an idea you're talking to, but let's just say it was too early for it to have any commercial use or solve any problems except on my site. The problem of feeling alone when you're on chat and you say hello and no one responds, for me, it was too early at that point. There's also the phase where you can arrive and feel like you're too late. This phase, in fact, lasts for decades. I think it's a matter of mindset, where many people always say to themselves, I feel like it's too late. So there are people today who say to themselves, it's too late for me to get started on the internet. There are already older YouTubers, TikTokers, etc. It's too late. But in fact, my first internet business was in 2007, so it's been almost 20 years. And since 2008, there are people who think it's too late to get started on the internet.
And above all, the more mature the market, the more we need to be excellent, that's for sure. When you first start out, you can test it out, etc. There are fewer demands from our customers. This requires high standards, but it's not impossible. And besides, there's no doubt about it. Every business today should have a digital strategy. You see, the days of being just a little more basic are over.
And word of mouth?
Yeah, so now you're telling me about your vision of what you saw, what you felt. I'd like you to give us a tip on how to think ahead in order to innovate. How do we project ourselves into the future? You see, I have meditation tools that I use with my clients to really look to the future and grasp the challenges of tomorrow. But I'd like to know, is this something you were born with? How do you do it? Do you have any tips for us?
So, in early 2021, what prompted me to launch OneTake AI was the realization that there are two major changes that will affect our entire generation and the generation that follows. At the time, my daughter was about to turn 4, and when I look ahead to 15 years later, when she will come of age, the world will be completely different because of two changes: climate change and the advent of artificial intelligence. And what most people don't do, but which is not that difficult to do, is simply to project themselves forward and ask themselves, if we continue with the improvements and advances we are making in this or that sector, what will be the end result? Where will it take us? And along the way, what problems will arise? And can I provide a solution? There are many problems that on my own I cannot directly solve. Okay. Economic and sociopolitical issues and migration are not my cup of tea. However, at the time, what I saw clearly was that I conducted a survey of our name, and we had 450 entrepreneurs respond to that survey in 1 weekend. It's a very long survey with 45 questions, and I asked what difficulties they faced in developing their business and making themselves known. One of the most common responses was from people who are experts, such as coaches, trainers, authors, consultants, or those who offer a traditional service or product, but have expertise in that area. I sell cosmetic products for Afro hair, for example. But in saying that, I created the formulation for this product because I know the specific problems their audience faces. And these people told me in the survey, the difficulty we have is making ourselves known because we know how to talk about our concept or our product, but we don't know how to edit videos. So there was this technical gap between where they are and putting the video on YouTube. If I chart the path from where we are in 2021 to where we will be in 2031, at some point, that technical gap will be resolved, and that problem will be a thing of the past. People will no longer say, just as today, no one asked themselves, Minst, I don't know how to use FTP, so I could never have a website. This was a real problem in my day, in the beginning. Someone has solved this technical problem. Now, most people who are going to watch this interview don't know what FTP is. But before, you couldn't make a website without knowing what it was. And so I realized that in fact, among all the different things I can do, I can continue business as usual, or I can solve an intense problem that is experienced by a large part of my audience with this emerging technology.
I remember something from a conversation we had one weekend when we were in a park. As I said at the very beginning, I sense a great humanity in you. And that's what touches me about entrepreneurs you see beyond the product we're developing. And I can see from what you've just said that you want to bridge the gap between those who have the technological skills and will succeed with AI, you see, who will be able to thrive and even ride the wave, and those who don't have the technological skills and don't want to have them. This is not their area of expertise either. And then it requires almost daily training to be good at it. And you're going to bridge this technological gap so that you can serve technology in a super simple way to creators, trainers, and people who have real expertise to bring to the market in order to make their daily lives easier. And that's where you come in, ensuring that these people are not left behind. You know, you told me there was going to be a line. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So, in our field, we call this dividing line, being above or below the API. So API is a technical term. What you need to visualize is that when two pieces of software or computers communicate with each other, they have a common language, an interface. And without explaining the acronym, that's what we call the API. And in the future, in the very near future, we will see a shift in our society where the middle class, as we know it today, will disappear. Today, as we speak, our society is like a Gaussian curve. That's how it is. And there's a main part in the middle, which is our middle class. And then there are people at the end of the curve on one side who struggle on a daily basis. It's a very unstable situation economically, etc. There are people who struggle, who are on the other side and who are in the top 1%, right? And the majority of people are somewhere in the middle, living in apartments, able to pay their rent, ranging from those who are just barely able to make ends meet to those who feel very comfortable. This central part will disappear, which means that the people listening to us will either find themselves on one side among the owners of tools, companies, and those who bring value, or on the other side, unfortunately, among those who are, in quotation marks, disadvantaged by this evolution. And for me, the opportunity I saw in 2021 was twofold. The first is on a personal level. As I said earlier, I have a daughter and I want Alice to be able to make her own choices in the future, where she wants to live, how she wants to live. And so I take it as my mission, while she is still a child, to give her options for the future. On the other hand, what I wanted to do was start my own business in this sector, because as an engineer, I'm passionate about artificial intelligence, but in a way that also allows other people to benefit from this transition and change. So when we talk in our sector about being above or below the curve, the simplest way to understand it is that in the future, in 2030 or 2035, one question will determine your standard of living, your freedom. The question is, in your daily life, do you give instructions to computers or do computers give instructions to you? And today, there are already a large number of people who are below the curve. This means that if you're an Uber driver today, if you're in an Amazon warehouse today, all day long, it's not your manager telling you what to do. It's a computer that says, you go there, you pick up this person at La Défense, and you take them to Bastille. And okay, I follow what the computer does. The problem is that when you're below the curve, so it's the computer that gives us the instructions, after a while, Tesla will end up making a robot, Waymo will end up making its robot taxi, and say that a computer can follow instructions better. So in the end, why do we need you? It's a very precarious situation that I wouldn't wish on anyone. So, one of the most essential skills we need to teach our children, and also ourselves, for those who are watching us and who are not technical, is to explain how, in my daily life, I can create a life where I am the one giving instructions to computers, I am the one making the decisions. Because being in this position will also give us superpowers compared to what was possible in 2020, 2015, or 2010. Because now, with AI, it's possible to accomplish much more just by giving the impulse, because it's the equivalent of having a team there to help us.
And I love the topic you're bringing up because, well, first of all, you have this mix of business and IT. For your information, I went to a school that I think is now called Institute Minds Telecom Management or something like that because they've changed their name again. But at the time, it was INT Management, which was a school where the business school and the engineering school were combined on campus. So I went to business school, and because at the time they thought it had been created from scratch, it was a France Telecom school, and they thought technology was going to be everywhere. And I think it was a very good bet because that's what's happening right now. So when I was trained, it was to become an IT project manager. What I learned was not how to develop, even though I learned a little bit of coding, you see, but that was never my passion. Rather, I learned how to define business process requirements and the needs of each person in order to create specifications and ask developers to create tools. And so I learned to understand people's needs, and I think that helped me enormously in my subsequent career as a coach in terms of asking the right questions to understand. What I noticed today with the advent of technology is that we can use technology to waste time, especially when we want to automate things that aren't.
Want to save time?
No, to waste time. Yes. Why? Because we can use technology to automate things, but business processes. For example, we say, yes, we'll do that, we'll ask the computer to do that. But in fact, it wasn't designed intelligently. I've worked for large corporations, SNCF, PSA, Air France, where we developed projects that required huge investments, as is often the case in large corporations, for applications that were not at all user-friendly or that were not intended for users, where in fact they said to themselves, but now you've created an application that causes me even more problems than before and that doesn't serve the user. And I find that with artificial intelligence, it's as if every human being is being led to think. People often say, we're going to lose our intelligence with artificial intelligence. It kind of ties in with what you're saying. I think we're going to have to be even smarter because knowing how to make prompts, make requests to a machine, ask it the right questions, ask ourselves the right questions about, okay, something I do manually, how can I automate it, requires great intelligence and professional skill. And I think that today it is this skill that every human being is called upon to develop within themselves. Could you, wait, there's a look of doubt.
I'm always instantly skeptical when a line of reasoning begins with, so it's very simple. We're all going to have to spend a lot of time learning very complicated things, and that will make us freer. And so in the future, everyone will be...
Did I say that? Wait.
No, I wouldn't say so.
It's a new form of intelligence.
Yes.
It's a new way of thinking, a new way of operating.
Yes.
That is to say, you want to finish your reasoning, perhaps.
I think that if we take where most people are today in terms of their understanding of how to communicate with AI, many people are starting from scratch, afraid to try because they don't know anything about it. So we hope we'll be able to make progress on that. And what if we take the skill level required to achieve a high quality result when communicating with AI, which is now higher than what most people are capable of? Most people will arrive, find themselves facing the empty chat box of ChatGPT, Cloud, or Gemini, and not know what to write. Okay, it's the same writer's block syndrome. And so, by default, they're going to do what we call prompts. That is rockets. They're going to do very naive prompts.
Yeah.
Okay, a naive prompt would be to say, write me a newsletter about the importance of yoga. Well, that's no problem. Any AI can write you a newsletter about the importance of yoga. It's going to be just as mundane and almost copy and pasted as the one 1,000 other people will have requested this week, describing a newsletter on the importance of yoga. Because, precisely, if we haven't communicated anything unique, we won't get anything unique in return. ChatGPT is the average of everything humans have written on Wikipedia in all the books that were used to train it, so...
This is a very good example, and I will refer back to it.
But then, to think that the vast majority of people will learn to make this distinction and write much more qualitative and personalized points, I don't think that will be the case. I think it's our job, us, the people who do AI, to make sure that our AI agents, I don't call it a tool, I'll come back to why, because it's part of the vision from the outset to say that we don't want to create software.
It's an artificial intelligence program, right?
He's an agent.
Ah.
But I'll come back to that in a moment. I'll just finish the idea. It's our job to ensure that artificial intelligence agents can function more like a trainee assistant, an extremely competent, brilliant employee capable of empathy and understanding to deliver better results with less technical complexity. When people say that prompt engineering, becoming a prompt engineer, will be the job of the future, that's absolutely not the case.
And, well, it's great because I think we're talking about the same thing. And I'll explain how you say, well, it's like it's becoming someone on our team. Ben, I think that knowing how to delegate and manage requires skills in terms of how I formulate requests, how I express what I really have deep down inside me, my vision, my thoughts, etc. And that, my friend, is a real skill. Many people think that hiring someone for their team is simply a matter of hiring the person, ensuring they are competent and that they do, but not at all. There is a coordination that is created. And I think that even with your tool, you see, for example, the use of your tool, I think that the way you can express how you want the video to be will make it so that, can you explain how it works?
OneTake AI.
So in fact, it's not a tool, it's an agent. Let's go. OneTake. So OneTake, you created it, I remind you, to help all freelancers, creators, trainers, coaches, etc., to be able to promote their expertise through videos, but without having to develop endless video skills. And basically, if we start with a video that is very basic in terms of sound, lighting, etc., where it's okay to make mistakes, and then suddenly the video is polished and comes out looking incredibly powerful with just one click, and that's why it's called OneTake.
Exactly. Most people, when you're starting out, it's normal to be a beginner, and most people won't be able to film a presentation as professional and clear as the one you've been giving for the past few minutes on their first try. For the people watching this video, everything you say is very clear, without hesitation, without mistakes, without having to start over. Most people, when they first try to edit a video, are unable to do so. Even people who are speakers, trainers, and used to presenting on stage don't necessarily know how to translate that skill in front of a camera. But most people are capable of filming themselves with their smartphone and giving 3 or 4 tips. It's just that the result of what is filmed with a smartphone is not professional enough to represent their business. Whether they want to post this video on YouTube, social media, or their website. So, the vision behind OneTake is to answer the question that was asked by most of the people in our survey, where we asked, what do you think would make the ideal video editing software? The majority response was, the ideal video editing software would be one that eliminates the need for video editing altogether. No one likes editing videos. It's awful.
Even video editors don't like it.
Even video editors hate doing this. The thing with tracks is that you cut them, and then you realize you've accidentally removed the sound, and suddenly your video is ruined, right? So, our vision from the outset was to say, what if, instead of having editing software with additional AI options, we got rid of all that and just allowed users to send in the raw video with all the hesitations, background noise, and the neighbor's dog barking in the background?
You start over 1 billion times. We've all been there. You see, you're there, you're cutting, you go, oh no. Then when it comes to editing, you're there, my head hurts, yeah.
There you have it. But then, if you worked with a talented videographer, like I was lucky enough to do when we made our documentary film Profession Entrepreneur Libre for release in theaters. I was working with a super talented videographer and he understood the vision. He had the rushes, i.e. the raw videos. He did the first edit and it was already 95% perfect. And then, to go from 95% to 100%, I didn't say to him, go ahead, give me Adobe Premiere and I'll finish the editing myself. I just sent him a voice memo saying, so listen, I'd like the titles to be a little lighter in color to make them stand out more. For the music, put on something a little more upbeat. And it's perfect. What if it were possible for Mr. or Ms. Average Joe, who wants to grow their business, could just talk about their concept with the raw video, send that raw video, and have the AI understand the vision in the same way and adjust the editing, add titles, clean up the sound, remove background noise, compose music, transcribe, and output shorts, i.e. Reels for Instagram, YouTube Shorts, videos for TikTok, translated into several languages, and do all of this without us having to do anything? That was the vision for OneTake, and that's what we achieved. And so that's the difference between saying it's a tool, like the editing apps people use on their phones or editing software on computers. One tool means more work. When I design an agent, i.e. I send my raw video, it gives me the result, and I can give it feedback without touching the editing, just giving feedback by saying, I'd like a more dynamic style for the transitions, or I'd like a vertical video as the result rather than a horizontal video, and it figures out how to change the editing accordingly.
Yes.
For me, that was much more valuable.
And I would add that as a result, your tool has the ability to really define. And then I still think, having used your tool, that you need to have a vision of what you want, because you can play around not with the tool, but that's because it's an interface. You know what I mean? But I hear it. I hear the difference, being able to specify what you want. And there's also something else. It can create. So you upload your video and it will create a description below with everything you need to communicate. And basically it's ready to use, meaning I upload my video and it's ready to go. And that's your goal, to make it easier to use. And today I'd like to ask you a question about AI. for women entrepreneurs who want to make their business even more profitable, who want to make it even simpler, because the goal, after all, is to be at the heart of our profession, and that's your goal. It's to, okay, technology shouldn't be a burden. It should be there to support us in what we're doing. What uses can you see for AI to increase the profitability of our business and make things simpler?
The first approach to always take is to ask yourself, if I had an intern, an employee, or a new team member who was extremely competent, he has read everything on the internet, he has read everything on Wikipedia, he has a master's degree in just about every field, and then he sits there. I just hired him, he's sitting there in the office, and if I just let him sit there without giving him anything to do, my business isn't going to grow on its own. If I give it vague tasks like write me an email for today, it will do the best it can with what it has, which isn't much, and we won't get very far. When most people start communicating with AI for the first time, they make two mistakes. The first mistake is to do it too infrequently, too rarely. Today I'm going to ask my AI to write the blog post that goes with the video. And, as I said earlier, they are used in a somewhat naive way. But the third problem, which you realize after a few weeks of use, is that most people tend to let their AI give them, I call that having homework to do at home.
Oh la la, but I totally understand what you mean, and that's where it leads to overload.
Yes, because now we say to ourselves, okay, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to tell me this video idea. Now, he gave me this idea for a video. He said, go ahead, do some research, do some stuff, and now I have extra work to do. And there's a different way to do it. The first idea is to tell yourself, from now on, I will always keep my AI in a window next to what I'm doing. And regularly, when I find myself doing a task for more than 5 minutes, I ask him for help with it. Not necessarily to do it for me, but to ask him, how could I save time on this task? By doing so, you will quickly discover which tasks can be performed by AI tools with just a few instructions, allowing you to delegate them entirely. For example, when it comes to video editing, this is the case with OneTake. Just say, now OneTake can suggest themes for videos and write scripts for them.
Yes, I'd just like to add something. What I find great is that I support women who are expanding their businesses and expanding internationally, and OneTake translates into several languages.
And by resynchronizing the students and redoing the voiceover. For example, in today's interview, OneTake can give us the answer in Portuguese or English. And we hear you speaking English, we hear me speaking English with our respective voices, and we redo the lip syncing. In any case, it feels like we've been speaking English natively without a French accent from the start.
I would like you to add the French accent. No, and that's exactly what I find so great about it, and I just want to say that on top of that, your tool, your agent, is evolving. We're only at the very beginning, because with there are investments. For me, this is just the beginning of what you're setting up. It's going to go very far, what you're proposing.
Our vision is to provide every business with a talented videographer. And the vision behind it, as we've seen, is that now that our AI learns from what's in the videos for each company, it's able to make suggestions. And once again, I come back to what really drives the way we build OneTake, which is to say to myself, I have this new employee, this new intern who is super bright, super competent, and who has edited all my training sessions, all my conferences, and all my videos on YouTube. If it were really a person, not a computer, but a person who comes to work every morning at 9 a.m. and is competent, dynamic, and everything. After a while, after a few days, a few weeks, that person would say to me, Sébastien, I've had an idea. In fact, I've noticed that we only make videos for YouTube, for example. Why don't you also post them on your LinkedIn since your videos are B2B? He might say to me, but actually I've noticed that in our videos, we cover this and this other topic, but for our audience, there's a fourth issue that seems obvious to me and that we've never addressed before. Could we treat it? And what we realize is that as our AI learns, we use a technology called containers, which means that in Amandine's account, OneTake's AI learns that within that account, the information will not be accessible to users of other accounts. Unlike all other American tools, they work differently. All you type into it is a data vacuum cleaner. So, if you type in your ideas, concepts, brand names, and concepts for future products into version 5 of ChatGPT, now version 6, all of that will have been sucked up. And the goal of most American AI startups is to replace their users. For me, it's a very short-term vision, because once all the chiropractors and naturopaths have come, and we've made sure that this AI replaces the people who came to use it, after a while, who will be the users if we replace our users? So we do things differently. Our vision is to say, OneTake learns, but within the framework of our account. So our concepts and intellectual property remain accessible only to that person, that user. But OneTake is becoming increasingly capable of making suggestions, being proactive, and adding value. So we currently have a patent pending in the United States for this concept because it makes an incredible difference to say to yourself, hey, it's literally as if my team has just grown without having to spend a fortune on recruiting additional people.
I can say that I find it addresses some very important issues for entrepreneurs, which are that when we want to grow our business, and these are issues that I have experienced myself and that I see many people experiencing right now, when we want to grow our business and our team, it means we have to combine personalities. You know what I mean? It's not just about skills, it's about personalities. It's about the wounds that come to the surface in entrepreneurship. It's about the challenges that are at stake, which go beyond business and will come into the company. And what I'm experiencing right now, I really feel like these are my big lessons, is that for me, a team is conquista, meaning we're musketeers, we're moving toward a vision together, and we're together. I love this vision, but I realize that this is not necessarily the case for everyone. And it is not always easy to find people in our team who share this vision of working together. You see, there are people who come in, want to do their job, and get paid. And actually, I'm not interested. I really want to be surrounded by a team that shares this passion and desire to create. And I think to myself, for certain skills, I'm really glad that AI is here, because then I can say to myself, I surround myself with people, not because it's an obligation, but at least I would have chosen these people, and I need people. A human will never be replaced by a computer when it comes to heart-to-heart connections. I'm just saying I don't know, but in any case today, that's not the case. And I find it incredible to think that there are areas where it's just skills that I need, and in fact, I can surround myself with AI.
On the subject of replacing humans with AI for heart-to-heart interactions, I think we need to be very wary of any AI company that tries to sell AI friends, AI partners, AI therapists, AI. Yes, on that side.
Friends, this is very interesting. Okay, friends, there is.
Yes, this may be the main risk to our mental health as a society.
Yes, indeed.
Humanizing artificial intelligence. And in fact, for people who do this every day, we create AI and who know how it works, we are aware of how much it has nothing to do with the notions of consciousness, of being an individual, of being a human being, of being truly capable of empathy. All of our AIs, including OneTake, Juga GPT, Claude, and Gemini, are capable of mimicking human behavior, mimicking empathy, mimicking aggression, appearing aggressive in return if you are aggressive, and appearing loving in return if you are loving. But there's nothing in it. It's still a mirror, there's a little smoke, it's empty. The appeal of AI today lies in its ability to give instructions in natural language. I write as I would write to a person and get feedback that is understandable and structured. This is something that didn't exist before, where we tried to force the human mind into the framework of an Excel spreadsheet. Now it's possible, instead of having to understand cell D6, cell D7, etc., to just say, I want to get this result. Can you guide me through the steps or help me execute some of them? Now that's something extremely useful. For me, it's important to choose how you use it wisely. We use AI to help us brainstorm, expand our ideas, find flaws, and add missing elements. I plan to make a video about the 5 mistakes to avoid. Are there any other key points I may have forgotten? Or are there any counter-arguments my viewers may have that I could address in my video? These kinds of questions, it's super useful to use AI for this. But using it to replace human interaction would, in my opinion, be a big mistake. And by the way, that's one of our commitments at OneTake. From the outset, we made a choice that is very different from all of our colleagues who work in AI and video. All the other tools you'll find if you type in video and AI are AI video generation tools. You'll type, I want to create a character that presents a video on a specific topic. And then, yes, you can create a 3D animated puppet or avatar, a dragon, or your own face, it doesn't matter, that narrates a text written by AI. In our opinion, this is going to flood the internet. It has already started, and it has very little value. Because what people are looking for in video is human expertise, human warmth, and the experience of the person giving the advice. We've decided to say, actually, we want to do editing. This means that there is still a human being behind the scenes who presented the conference and training session and filmed himself with a selfie. And so it's still a real video. What our AI has done is bring this enrichment, but it doesn't come at the expense of our users. We're not trying to replace them. And for me, where AI brings the most value to our society and our businesses, since we're talking today to women entrepreneurs who are in this expansion, what AI brings us is the ability to do more, to give us superpowers. We must be careful not to use it to replace ourselves.
And thank you for talking about women, because I want to say even more for women in what you say AI cannot replace. AI is a high-performance analytical mind, but we have an emotional body. We have invisible, multiple, multidimensional bodies. We all have a soul. Well, everyone does. That is, you can't see it, so I can't say for sure, but I know that every human being can feel it inside them, and it's part of a deep connection. And we women, I think, have a much stronger connection to our emotional bodies than men do. There's something a little more to take away. We have waves, and then we see it in the female cycle. And any woman who is connected to her cyclical life can feel it. Emotionally, we feel more. And they say that we have 10%, I think, more water in our bodies than men. Water, for example, shows the effect of the moon on the tides. We also have this effect from this cycle, and we need human connection. And I see it, for example, I'm in a business club in Dubai where we are a group of women, where we all say the same thing, in fact. We all say we love business, we love entrepreneurship, we love to spread our wings, but the masculine codes of entrepreneurship, which are very performance-oriented, action-oriented, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, don't suit us. We need to feel alive. So, in what you're saying about AI, I'm very happy to hear someone who develops AI agents and takes this human consideration into account, because otherwise we're going to get eaten alive. And I often tell the people I work with, many of whom are therapists or coaches, etc., that we are going to need people enormously in the near future. You're going to be needed. Why? Because we can see that with AI, it's a wave, but a powerful one. It's the Nazaré wave in Portugal. It's coming, and it's big, it's powerful. Even I feel it every time I work with AI, lead workshops, and learn new things. My heart races. I notice this in myself. It puts me in, it's all happening too fast. But I love new technologies, so it's very surprising. But I have this feeling of the pace is incredible. And I think there are people, leading figures in LIA today, who even say we need to pause a little, it's going too fast. So I don't think I'm the only one who feels this way. And I got lost in my idea that it's all happening too fast. Yes, it can. How do we do it? What advice would you give to people who feel that things are moving too fast for us to keep up? Because we are all entrepreneurs, the people who listen to us, so that we can stay focused on our business vision and not get caught up in this wave of, you should do this, you should do that, try this new tool, with new tools coming out every day? What would you recommend to stay focused and ensure that technology continues to serve us, rather than allowing ourselves to be engulfed, swept away, and swallowed up by it?
Okay, so this is a very rich question because you've raised a lot of topics in the same question. There is already the question of whether AI in general is moving too fast. The reason why many people in our industry in 2023, myself included, signed a manifesto calling for us to take our time in terms of AI development is specific to one question: what impact it will have on our society, on us as a human species, and how we can ensure that interpretability, our ability to understand what is happening in these gigantic AI systems that we are designing, and our ability to control it remains under control versus the capabilities we are creating. Today, there are too many economic and geopolitical incentives pushing for increased AI capabilities and not enough pushing for increased clarity about where we are headed. So this is still an open debate, and one to which, for the moment, we have not yet found a satisfactory answer. On the other hand, the question is, how can you avoid feeling overwhelmed by all the new developments, new tools, etc.? The answer to that has been the same since Tim Ferriss published the 4-Hour Workweek in 2008. No, in 2007, it's Media Diet. For example, I'm not the best person to ask about the latest AI tools that came out last week. Why? Because I'm working on a project, and what's relevant to designing OneTake is a very limited field. It's about what technological advances will be useful to us in helping our users. So I stay up to date with the latest advances in scientific research and new AI models in image understanding and music composition, areas that are specific to solving the problems we want to solve for our customers today. But for example, we might ask, I hear there are AIs that let you edit photos on your phone or change your voice to sound like Darth Vader. I wouldn't have a clue because it's an extremely fast-moving field where there are millions of highly educated, extremely intelligent people, each working on their own little slice of the pie, so there's going to be a lot of noise. And as an entrepreneur, one of our main strengths and qualities is knowing how to sort through things and be what I call an essentialist. That is, identifying the one thing I need to focus on today to move forward. So someone who is listening to us today is saying, I'm a coach in romantic relationships. Ready? If I'm a relationship coach, I don't need to know about all the new AI tools coming out this week. I don't need to be particularly knowledgeable about AI news. I need to solve a small number of problems. I need to know for my videos where I talk about finding a soulmate, which AI will do the editing for me. Okay, there's OneTake, awesome. I need to know for my client meetings, is there a tool I can use to automatically sync our calendars for scheduling appointments? Because sending my Calendly link and him sending me his cal.com link and then trying to figure it all out is a pain. There is surely, for example, you see this is a very good example, there is surely a tool that exists today that solves this problem. Because I have a cal.com link, if you have a Calendly link, it's easy to find common time slots. Someone has surely created a tool. I don't know about you, Sebastian, but I'm not familiar with this tool. Why? I don't need it. It doesn't solve a problem for my clients. I don't need to be aware of all the AI tools that exist. But if I were the seduction coach who needs to successfully set up these dates, that's a problem I have today. I'm going to do some research. In 15 minutes, I would have found the right tool. I'm going to install it. I'm going to use it. And I don't need to know every week if there's a new tool that solves this problem. I've already solved this problem, so I'm moving on to something else. And most people are overwhelmed because they don't guard the door to their minds. And they get notifications all the time, news on their phones, and they read them all. And just put yourself in airplane mode from time to time and literally say, okay, today, in my business as it is now, what are the problems I need to solve to get where I want to be at the end of next year? And to solve these problems, is there already an AI agent or tool that would allow me to solve this problem? And if it doesn't exist yet, I'll look in 6 weeks. Typically, the cycle is 6 weeks. Often at conferences, when I present something, for example, I gave a talk to Japanese female entrepreneurs. We were talking about how to create an AI tool in 2023. I gave the example of someone who was a stylist, someone who does makeovers. And I said to him, but actually, in relation to what you do, a tool that would allow people to visualize what they would look like with a particular color or outfit didn't exist at the time we were talking. I think to myself, give it 6 weeks and someone will surely have solved it. The cycle lasts 6 weeks. And sure enough, a few weeks later, a startup launched with the claim, we've solved the problem of virtually dressing people to try on clothes. So, little post-it note, we'll come back to this later. No need to stay up to date every day. Even people who work in AI don't try to keep up with everything that comes out. We're just trying to stay on top of what solves problems for our customers.
I think that's a great conclusion because what I was looking for, above all else with this interview, was to reassure my community, to reassure my clients, to give concrete examples of what is possible. And you've shown it. So video editing, in any case, I think it's an issue, honestly, for my entire community. So thank you for introducing the artificial intelligence program, the agent you're proposing. I'll get there. And I would also like to say thank you for clarifying what you clarified at the end. It's about stopping looking for problems that didn't exist, solutions to solve problems that didn't exist, but coming back to your core in a simple and minimalist way and asking, what is the problem I'm facing today and what can solve it? Thank you for sharing. Where can we... I'll put the link in the comments on your tool. How can we access what you're offering?
Very soon. It's interesting to note that OneTake is mainly used by women. For me, when you were talking about the challenge of AI, it's going to be an equalizer, as I said, where you have to dare, you have to take the plunge. Why do we have such a large female audience? It's because women are often afraid to put themselves forward because the video has to be perfect, whereas men will film themselves, they don't care. They might have messy hair that day, but that's okay. And as a result, OneTake gives your work a more professional look. Today on our website, OneTake.ai, like artificial intelligence. On OneTake.ai, people can subscribe, but there is a secret link by going to try. So TRY, like trying in English. OneTake. You can try it for free, upload your own video, and see the results.
But that's awesome.
Now that's what you call a startup idea. Here it is.
It's okay.
You can add the link to the video.
Okay, great. That's great. Thank you. So let's give it a try. The best thing to do is to try out the tool and test it for yourself. And I think we are also guided. I've used it myself, and it really guides you through the process. So happy exploring to everyone who is going to explore the tool. Thank you. I'm a bit patriotic at heart, even though we're in Dubai. And I am very proud when I meet French people who have set up projects like this, who are serving others. So thank you for spending this time with us. And I wish you every success in what you are about to accomplish.
Thank you.
Being surrounded by people who support you in your project, and above all, having users, a community. I know you have this sense of community and humanity, and I believe you also have this desire to bring people together and continue to do so throughout your career. So I wish OneTake a beautiful journey of evolution together. Thank you.
Thank you very much.